Welcome to the C.L.I.M.B. This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. Leverage is what you're going to need in the new music business. It's going to take a track record. It's going to take some actual cash flow. It's going to take some cuts. It's going to take some hits before you're going to turn some heads and people are going to come out of the woodwork to try to help you. Before you're going to get the record deal, before you're going to get the publishing deal, before you're going to get the management contract, before you're going to get the booking agency to care, you're going to already have to be doing business. That's what we're here to help you with. It's why we called it the C.L.I.M.B, C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. Brilliant! And my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter, who's a lyricist, is the one that came up with that. That's a Baxtronym of epic proportions. Brent's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady Antebellum, Joe Nichols, and more. And he also helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro. And not only that, he actually connects you to the pros on a regular. And you can find Brent at songwritingpro.com. Once again, that's songwritingpro.com.
And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. Daredevil has created over 25 national TV opportunities for their indie artists by making them discoverable. They've also created multiple tour opportunities, and through the power of digital marketing data, yeah, those are big words, but they're fancy, but they mean a lot. They've attracted a number of investors for their artists. Investors are the money people, and the money people like the numbers because the numbers don't lie because the numbers can't talk. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That's production, singular, no S. There is no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing well. My AC's working today. I'm a little chilly in my office, which is rare. So I'm just like, should I keep it going? I think I'm just going to enjoy this little chilliness. I'm a slipper.
Nice.
Nice, yeah.
So today, I got a question for you, Brent.
Mm-hmm.
Is the new music business really new?
Well, Johnny, that's
the same as the old business.
Like, what is it? The king is dead. Long live the king.
Right, like meet the new boss. Same as the old boss.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to think of, yeah. I'd say yes and no, but for a long answer, we'll probably have to dive into the whole episode.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about today. We have just formal announcement here, if you haven't figured this out already, last Friday. The social media challenge thing, actually getting really good listens. The consumption wasn't any different, but just didn't get any more emails. And honestly, I couldn't keep those episodes to less than 15 minutes. So I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, and I don't have the time to have two shows with this much content on it. I just don't have the time. So Chelsea Stallings is a climber, been a long-time climber, and the organizer of the first Climb conference, one of them. And
one of them, yeah.
Lake City is now coming to work for Daredevil. She's been working for us for a couple of weeks. She's doing the big hermitage, moving the family, the kids, and the horses from Salt Lake City to Nashville. And we're excited to have her on board. And right off the bat, she comes in swinging a big sword with a brand new idea. Oh my God. She's like, what are we going to do on Friday? I'm like, I have no idea. My armpits and alligators. I got so much going on. And I'm just like, I did not know. We got Allura coming out with dropping a new single. Jacob Cade's out right now with his new single. All the machines are in full force. We just got the Nashvilleans on board. We're busy. Mm-hmm. And I don't have the time. She's like, well, what if we did this pick your brain thing? What if we just asked everybody questions, had them email us in or post on social media, and then you could pick one or two or three questions and keep it under 15 minutes, and then we're shout them out. And we're answering what they want to know. I'm like, well, that's just brilliant. Let's do that. So that's what this episode is about. There's one episode from a particular climber that is going to take a lot longer, I knew, than 15 minutes just for the one question. And I want to tap into that. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Is the new music business the same? Before we do that, though, well, actually, you know what? Let's. I want to read that email real quick just to prime everybody before we get into this part of it. So this is from Ryan Boyce. Ryan Boyce, just FYI, climber for a while. He is a really killer artist. I have done a consultation with him before. He sent me his music. He's a type A personality and an admitted skeptic about everything, I think, on the planet. Okay. And he'll tell you that, with it straight up. But this dude's got it all together. And I really have a lot of respect for this guy. And I just felt like this email probably speaks volumes to what a lot of people are thinking. So here's the email. I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll take care of some business and get into the episode. So email. Okay. With all the middlemen and this is in quotation marks, guys, middlemen, promo gurus, marketing extraordinaire, and social experts, end quote, having inserted themselves into the mix, charging either cheap rates for BS services or completely inflated rates for outstanding services that still can't be guaranteed in terms of tangible return. How the hell is an artist expected to believe that, again, quotes, the new indie music business is new, innovative, or any different from the status quo that music business has always been? It's still all at the expense and risk of the artist, right? It's still about profitability, right? I don't believe for a second that the artist's side of all this will ever be in a position of power or leverage in terms of the business. Change my mind, because there's probably a lot that I'm missing. Also, I'm bitter and ornery. Get off my lawn. I love you guys. Cheers, Ryan Boyce.
Nice.
So I think he's thinking what a lot of people are thinking. I mean, there's frustration in there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we're going to dive into that. But before we do, let's take care of a little business. As always, the C.L.I.M.B podcast is proud to partner with disc makers. And it's a digital world out there, but it with streaming and everything like that, but it's still really, really important. There's still a really important role for physical media for today's independent musician. I swear by this, it's merch. The digital royalty payments are so small that selling products like a CD, vinyl, T-shirts, hats, those funky custom USBs that they have, this has become a super important income generator. Straight up is going to get you from one town to the other, right, Brent?
Mm-hmm, that's right. And for like every CD that you sell at a gig, you got your little table and you got your CDs. Buy my CD. Somebody buys a CD. To equal that, you need about 3,000 streams to make the same amount of money. That's a lot of streams. And so our friends at Disc Makers, however, they are the place to go for your discs, other physical media, including vinyl, USB drives, and even T-shirts. So instead of go for those 3,000 streams. Disc Makers, though, can hook you up for that CD that you just need to sell one of, right, to make the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
You're growing, go there, and they can hook you up with the physical stuff, the CDs, the vinyl, USB drives, all that stuff. You can find them at www.discmakers.com, or you can give them a call at 800-468-9353. That's 800-468-9353.
Awesome. And if you haven't done so already, join the C.L.I.M.B community. This is not your average Facebook community, not your average Facebook group. There's actually stuff being posted every single day. And there's questions, answers, people communicating, going back and forth. I feel guilty. I haven't been there in probably a week and a half because I've been so buried. So I know I'm missing a lot of stuff. But just go to C.L.I.M B community, ask to be let in. We let everybody in, and then just be good boys and girls. And promise you, it's gonna be the juice is gonna be worth the squeeze. Subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you get all the episodes in wherever you consume your podcasts, and they come in order, and you can get to them at your own pace. Please take a couple seconds and leave a 5-star rating and review in the best possible way that you could honor Brent and I for all the work that we do to help you guys out is to straight up tell somebody about it. If there's an episode here that really rung a bell, that really struck a chord, that got you thinking, that changed, maybe enlightened you, share that with somebody else. Put it on your social media. Tell somebody about it. Let them know it's legit. And that's how we continue to grow our followers and how we continue to spread the love here and spread the gospel, right?
Yep. And while you're talking about the C.L.I.M.B community, I thought, let me just hop over there on my phone here while you're talking just because you bore me. No, just kidding. Just because I want to relevant. And it's okay, what's going on over in the C.L.I.M B community? So you got some posts, helpful posts from Johnny and from Brent, some little motivational stuff, something, the bird and the bee that you thought was really awesome that you shared.
Dude, that group is some kind of jazz group, with a keyboard guy and this really killer soul singer, and they covered "Ain't Talking About Love" by Van Halen with Dave Grohl on the drums. That's worth the price of admission right there.
Cool. That's some inspiration for your day.
Yeah.
Got a new Wordplay Thursday. We're recording this on a Thursday. That's from yours truly. So a little, creative Kickstarter shared there. And then, here we go. Here, Jeff Parmley sharing a post for Musicians Unite. Don't just be a rock musician. Don't just be a blues musician. Don't just be a metal musician, etc. Be a musician. You can learn something from all styles and genres. So a little helpful tidbit, a little bit of inspiration coming from a climber. And there's another one from Jeff that's helpful. And so we got to hear some from Gavin Clark that's funny about anatomy of songs, a little kind of infographic thing. We got something from our buddy Wade Sutton. So this is not spammy stuff. You notice I didn't say anyone's check it out, my song. right?
Yeah.
That you're not going to. We just know it's not going to happen. It's people sharing stuff that's interesting, it's relevant to musicians and inspiring and that kind of stuff.
It's legit.
So, yes. So that's just a quick little survey of what's there right now.
I like that. We should probably do that every time. Like that's killer.
What's going on there today? Hey,
what's really happening?
Exactly.
So let's get to Ryan Boyce here. So,
we're going to get on your lawn, Ryan. I am standing on your lawn tonight.
That's right. He's talking about middlemen, promo gurus, the marketing people, the social experts. Some of them are, if they're charging real low money, it's not.
They're worth less.
Yeah, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
And the ones that are charging real money are going to give you outstanding services, but you're right. It can't be guaranteed.
Still no guarantees, right?
So I want to start off by talking, just to get everybody, again, thinking about reminding you what you're selling, okay? It's art. Art has no tangible, fundamental, deep-rooted value in any society. It's until it's created, right?
Right.
It's not like a hammer. If you need a hammer and somebody needs it right away, before you pound that nail on the wall to hang the picture, are you studying and judging who made the hammer? No, I just need a damn hammer. Give me the thing. I'm going to pound it, right? It doesn't matter. So, or an umbrella, right? When it's raining outside, you don't have an umbrella, you'll pay $10 in New York to get a freaking umbrella. You don't care what the brand name is. It's got deep-rooted value. How about a cardboard box, right? You know exactly what a cardboard box is, what it does, and what it means to you, just like every other person on the planet, at that specific moment of your life. 9 times out of 10, it's trash. It's a pain in your butt. But a week before you got to move, you're like, how much for that box, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you're throwing them out all year long.
Yeah.
Diaper boxes, all that stuff. You're about to move, all of a sudden you're hoarding them like a cat lady hoards cats.
Right? So there's a value. You understand what it is, but nobody understands the value of your song until enough people understand the value of your song. So it's not about how good it is. It's about how many people think it's good. And that's why we have artists that you think that you look down your nose at who are making multi-millions of dollars because there's a whole lot of people that like it. And you like, that's the most trite, crappiest stuff I've ever heard. And I'm much more sophisticated in that. How is it that they're making more money than me? Because they just have a bigger audience. But to make that happen, it's not like the lemonade stand. I'm actually going to use Ryan Boyce as an example here. So Ryan Boyce, definitely type A personality, which I don't like those people at all, right?
No, you can't relate.
They're not from my mothership at all. Yeah, I love Ryan for that reason. And Ryan has his own business. It's a hauling company. He owns like a trucking company, and they truck oil. And so he's in North Dakota, I think, or South Dakota, one of the Dakotas, where, and he's I think it's crude oil or something. He's taking it right out of when they pull it out of the ground, he's hauling it from one place to another, maybe the refinery or something. I don't know. But in that instance, you could start you've got the oil. It's there. There's a service that needs to be done. I need somebody to get this from point A to point B, and they got to have the gear to do it, and a guy that knows how to drive the truck, and somebody that comes in with a CDL, right, and the ability to get a hold of a truck can make money starting today, right? Yeah. I'm going to do that. And then if you got a modicum of business smarts, which I assure you from my conversations with Ryan Boyce, he has, okay? Then you're like, okay, so right up first day, I'm driving this truck from here to here. I'm making money. I'm able to charge enough money because this company providing a service that they need, they have a cash flow and they're able to pay me. And then if I can do it with one truck, I can do it with 2. Right. And if I can do it with 2, I can do it with 4. If I can do it with 4, I can do it with 16, right? And then it's only up to your ability and your vision of how much you want to grow it to make it happen. But art is not, it just doesn't work like that. You have to think about it a different way. You have to approach it like you would a tech company with a brand new technology. It's one thing to have the most amazing technology on the planet that are going to blow people's minds. It's a completely other issue to get anybody to care about it. Right? Take TiVo, for instance, which changed the world. This is the weirdest story. Changed the world with their technology. They were the first ones to come out with the technology that allowed you to pause
live television,
TV, and it would keep the data going and allow you and suggest different shows that maybe you weren't aware of. That, hey, because you like this, you probably like this. This is just based on what you've been watching, right? Yeah. And also allowed you to record and store on a hard drive as opposed to videotape.
Or Betamax. Yeah.
The big thing was having an auto record that stuff. So TiVo effectively eliminated appointment television.
Yes.
If you wanted to watch your favorite show and it was on Tuesday night, you had to be there Tuesday night or you were going to miss it. And now TiVo's like, no, we got that for you. And if the show changed, right, if it went from Tuesday night to Thursday night, TiVo doesn't care. Like, it's not set up at Tuesday. It's following the show. Wherever the show goes, that's where it goes. Change the world. They're broke. I mean, TiVo doesn't make money. They marketed it wrong. As much as it's ubiquitous, as much as every cable company has that technology in their boxes now, and a lot of them, like, we're working with TiVo. I know this for a fact. It was TiVo technology inside there. The commercial deals made and stuff like that. TiVo still isn't making any money because they didn't get it into the mind of the consumer quickly enough. They tried to market it the wrong way. They really believed that because it was such a cool technology that everybody would just jump on it.
So build it and they will come.
Right, build it and they will come. So they spent way too much money, way too soon. They were trying to get the early majority to hop on board before, and they were spending money to reach the early majority, which is super expensive, right? Before they got the pioneers on board and before they got the early adopters on board. And there it is. Here's a situation where they were right. The technology was, everybody freaking needed it. And everybody now has it.
Yeah.
For the most part. But yet, why are they broke? Why are they the broke musician? I mean, it's absolutely insane, but that's what happens because they weren't thinking about it the right way. Same thing with music. Even in the old music industry, where radio was so powerful, it would launch a career. You one hit single and you were launched off, and you could get into, if you played your cards right, you could be the Stones, you could be the Beatles, you could be a 50-year career. It didn't happen with one song.
Right.
You know, most people don't know that the first Beatles record was all covers. First two Stones records, all covers except for 3 songs. First Led Zeppelin record, all covers. That just got them on the radio and got people used to the brand name and everything. Then they came out with the next record, right? That kind of took off. What's the norm? It's 3 records was the normal. You would get a record deal. It was really expensive to do this for yourself. It was cost prohibitive. You couldn't make it $150,000 or $250,000 record. And then you certainly couldn't afford $2 million to promote it, or you had it on the radio. So there wasn't social media. What are you going to do? Just go door to door? You know, it doesn't work that way. So you have to, art doesn't create value until enough people value it. And then it creates, then people see the crowd and they're like, what is this all about? Oh, okay, that's kind of cool. So most artists, and of course there's exceptions to the rule, but if you try to define this or pick apart this conversation that we're having right now based on the exception to the rule, you're doing yourself a disservice because it's the exception to the rule. It's like winning the lottery. That's the exception to the rule. The rule is you just pay, you don't win. Right. And or if you do win, you don't win enough to make back the money that you paid in. It's a losing battle. It's a tax for people that are bad at math.
Exactly. Yeah.
But some people win. And that's that. Well, some people's are Guns N' Roses, and the first record sells 30 million copies, but that is almost never the case. Yeah. It is usually, it's a brand building thing, and the first record, you're in debt. And that's with the company record label spending a couple $1 million on you. The second record, you barely break even on.
On the second record itself.
On the second record itself. First record. Exactly.
Okay.
And then the third record is the big money maker. The third record was Born to Run from Bruce Springsteen. The third record was Slippery When Wet from Bon Jovi. The third record was Pyromania from Def Leppard. The third record, I mean, on and on and on. We can go down the list and you'll see how amazing that is, like how on point that is. So why? Because they build up a little audience on that first record, but it's not enough to pay back what it cost to get that audience, right? But now you're going to carry that audience over into the next record. And so there's a few more people talking about it. And then it sort of hits a critical mass on the third record where the core of followers for that artist is big enough that now it's cool to like Bruce Springsteen, or it's cool to like Bon Jovi, or to like Def Leppard, or to like whoever. And then it takes on a life of its own, and it does really well. I just wanted to touch on that is the way that marketing art happens. It just, you don't put out like one song and make your money back.
Yeah.
So But you could do that with a trucking company if you're smart. You can do that with a lemonade stand. You can do that with if you wanted to sell hammers. Like, there's ways that you can make money and become profitable right away in different businesses, but that's just not what this business is. So you've got to stop comparing apples and oranges.
Yeah. And I look at, is the new music business really anything new? And the way I look at it is, he said, hey, it's still the risk of the artist and it's all about profitability. And I'd say in general, yeah, it's still, especially as an independent artist, you're still carrying the risk and it's still about becoming profitable. That has not changed, but the tactics and how you get from A to B has changed because of the digital world that we live in. So instead of it's all about getting on the radio and millions of dollars and that stuff, or we're just hoofing it from town to town to town, we can never come off the road, stapling flyers to utility poles in the entertainment district of the town we hope people show up. Now we have a wholly different set of tactics for that. Yeah, you're still on the road and you're still doing some of the other stuff, but now the whole digital stuff is opened up. So the goal hasn't changed. Profitability, building your fan base, but how you go there has changed dramatically. And if you're still living by the old rules, it's completely inefficient and you're going to get whooped by people that are following the new reality. And so in a way I'd say yes. And that's why I say yes and no on, is the new music business really new? It's still about reaching your fans, getting new, like you'd say, Johnny, new music.
It's still a business. It's still a business.
It's still a business. It's still about reaching profitability, but the tactics have changed.
It's not about who's got the best art.
Right.
It's not.
It's not. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I can't remember which one it was, but they were interviewing this guy. He wrote the formula, the universal laws of success, and his name, some like French name or something. Let's see. Albert Laszlo Barbassi. Anyway, there's some interesting stuff in there, and some of it definitely applies to art and artists like us. He talks about if it's like the NFL where, you have measurables and this guy's demonstrably faster than the other guy. This guy's demonstrably stronger. That can lead to success, right? Mm-hmm. You can measure it. And at least this race car driver drives faster. This car is faster, whatever. You can measure this stuff and that leads to greater success. This salesperson sells more. Money coming in, bottom line. With art, it's so you can't measure quality of that, right? You can't really measure that. So two new artists put out new records. It's a lot harder to measure quality. How do you do that? In that sense, in those cases, what makes the difference to success is relationships.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what you talked about earlier, we all know these artists that we don't respect. We're like, what is that mess? And why is it so popular? Well, they built their relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are a lot of country artists, some new country artists that have come up and they've come up grassroots and they built their fan base and now they're on the radio and they're blowing up and you're like, I don't quite get it. Why is that good? Because people that you think are better that can't get arrested. Mm-hmm. But it's because you've just been in a writer's room with them instead of, them being on the road and building their fan base. Like, oh, well, when it's hard to measure the objective quality of the music, what's going to make the difference? The relationships.
Yeah.
Meaning relationships in the business, but also your relationships with your fans.
I think that art at an amateur level is, for the most part, it's objective up until the point that it gets competitive. Once it gets competitive, it turns subjective, right? Yeah. But before that, it's objective. Like, this isn't good. Like, this recording isn't good. This song isn't good. This, no. And then all of a sudden, once you figure out how it works and you know how to do it. And by the way, I've heard Ryan Boyce's music and I want to give him a shout out. Like, I'm a genuine fan of his music. He's got this cool, dark indie thing. Imagine it's a little dark, right? And it's an indie thing that's going on. That's really compelling. It is. The only thing standing between him and a bigger audience is some money to put behind it. And he's going to need some money to get in front of new eyeballs. It still takes money, right? But the difference is, here's the thing. Back in the day, with the old record business, remember we had all those major labels and they're giving out advances and you get publishing advances and everybody's making money. It's a $75 billion a year industry. 95% of the artists who had record deals didn't make money. Mm-hmm. Why? Because they sucked? No. They had to be really good to get on that label to begin with, because they didn't have an audience. But they didn't have an audience, not because nobody was turned on to them, in a sense that nobody liked them because their art just didn't catch on or whatever. They didn't have an audience because they didn't get on the radio.
Yeah.
For the most part. That was the delivery mechanism for the drug of choice that we call music. That's how the new music got put into the mind of the consumer, and it was mathematically restrictive. So only 5% of the artists made any money, but radio is so powerful that they made so much money, it covered for the losses of 95% of the other artists. So in a lot of ways, it's so much more powerful now for the artists because the gods had to look your way. The record label heads and the heads of radio had to nod at you and say, yes, you're going to be the next one. Okay, because there's all this competitive art that's already signed to the label, but we're going to pick you to squeeze through and get on the radio. And now you're going to be put in front of new eyeballs and your audience is going to grow. And you had to play by their rules. And it wasn't trackable digitally, right? I mean, artists like Colin Ray sold 8 million records, never recouped. Kind of BS is that, you know? Yeah. So it was able to be real shady. Why? Because it was able to be shady. Sunlight is the best antiseptic. You know what digital is? The biggest freaking sun on the face of the planet. It's going to it is evening the playing field. When we had 42% increase in streams on Spotify last year in the United States, that it was all from indie artists. Wow. These are guys who don't have record labels. They're not on the radio. We're talking about billions of dollars in revenue that they're generating. Why? Because people know about them and they're creating traffic. So in the old record business, you had to play by their rules. You had to, there was no way to audit. I mean, you could audit, but it's going to cost you more money to audit the books. You're just going to create a fight with your label. You just took it and they screwed you. They did. I remember Twinkle was on Warner Brothers Records and our manager, Barbara Strauss, who we've interviewed on this podcast when I was an artist, was also her manager. She was invited to go to the Montreux Jazz Festival. Amazing singer, the best singer I've ever heard in my life, straight up. Best singer I've ever heard in my life. The label's like, yeah, we got your tickets for you. It's all good. We'll take care of that. And Barbara just thought to ask, like, what do the tickets cost? Because it's your money they're spending, right? Yeah. And it's $3,000 a piece. They're first class, of course. Oh, of course. So she calls. Now, this is, by the way, before Expedia, before Kayak, before you could do business online and get your own tickets. She just called her local Faded Map travel agent in Sarasota, Florida, and said, hey, if I want 2 first-class tickets to Montreux at this day and coming back on this day, what's that going to cost? And they're like, those are $1,500 a piece. So that's the way the labels would do it. Every single service you had, whether it was the limo service picking you up from the airport, the travel, the whatever, it was doubled or tripled. That's what they would charge you. And then they would throw that weight around to different travel agencies and limo services and recording studios and promo companies and PR companies and all this stuff. And they were able to wield that power because you couldn't tell. You didn't know, right? Now you do. And now there's companies like, I was just reading this in Music Business Worldwide, Beggars Group is they're an independent label. They are like my vision for what I want Daredevil to be, right? But much bigger than me by a billion times. But they were so big as an indie label that they were actually offered stock options by Spotify. And they cashed in their stock options and made a boatload of money on them, just like the major labels did when Spotify went public. And the story that just came out was that they gave 44% of that revenue, that windfall that they got from selling the stock, they distributed it amongst their artists in cash. Nice. Like there was a little bit of recoup, but mostly in cash. Like, hey, we got lucky, you get lucky, here you go. And everything is transparent with the artist. So as a label in that position, should they upcharge on services? Absolutely. Yeah.
Because they pay somebody's time to go find those plane tickets to do what they got to pay somebody.
That's right. So they're not only making money like on the sales of your product and stuff like that, but they're also making money on the administration of the whole thing, whether it comes from booking plane tickets, a travel agency or a PR company or Barfrog. We work very closely with Randy at Barfrog. Well, we have so many artists that need PR. We've got a PR company. We get that PR company probably for less than half of what you're going to pay for it, right? Maybe it's like a third of what you would pay as an individual person. Because we have a big stinky check that goes to them every single month.
Leverage.
Yeah, it's leverage,
right? Yeah,
and you get a better. It's like if you buy 500 CDs, you get this price. Whenever you go like to disc makers or whatever, you buy 1,000, you get them for cheaper.
Right. Well, it's like I just started opening up a coaching subscription, and so you can get a one-off coaching session with me for X amount of dollars at songwritingpro.com/coaching, and okay, let's get some more predictability, some more relationship, long-term coaching instead of just a consultation. Let's get some like ongoing coaching. I can actually serve my people better if we have an ongoing thing. Let's do a subscription. Saves you money, but it gives me that predictability. So it's worth it. Like for me, so the economies of scale going, I'm going to cut you a deal because I know it's coming in every month and it's going to allow me to actually serve you better.
Oh, yeah.
But you get a break on it.
There you go. Yeah. It's like going to Costco as opposed to going to the gas station, a gallon of milk. You're
exactly, yeah.
So those labels like Beggars, and this, I promise you Daredevil's going to do this. They're going to make some money on that. You're going to pay, you're still going to be charged less for PR overall, like dramatically less than what you have to pay if you did it on your own.
So you're winning.
There's a margin in there that they're going to make. They're not charging you what they're getting charged. They're going to bump it up a little bit. And that's okay. But the thing is, you don't need anybody's permission anymore. There are artists like Cody Johnson, like Carmen, like Noah Guthrie, like Granger Smith, like Macklemore and Ryan Lewis that have created this world for themselves because they found their audience first. Even Bad Baby got an audience. Like it was the creepiest, weirdest way. And but the bottom line was she gets a record deal because she's got an audience. And she didn't need to talk to anybody about that.
Isn't Lil Nas X independent?
Yes, and he broke on TikTok, and he just broke records with
Old Town Road.
Yeah, because it's been number one for longer than any other song ever, I think.
Yeah.
And by the way, they keep doing new collaborations with it, right? It started with Cyrus, and he just keeps spinning that. This is the most genius thing ever, right?
Yeah.
My little 7-year-old nephew's with me this weekend. That's his favorite song. And he's gonna ride until I can't ride no more. Oh, damn! He's just jamming out to it. Loves it. Yeah. We just started working with the Nashvilleans, a killer brand new like super group, like all pro guys. That's got the singer Troy Johnson, who actually is the demo singer for our intro song.
Yeah, who's next? Yeah, he sang the demo on that.
Sang the demo. Yeah. So this guy's been around for a long time. Brett Boyette, a good friend of mine. Like this band rocks. Scott Lindsay, they're these amazing songwriters. They got a killer thing going on. I'm like, you guys need to do Old Town Road. Like, shouldn't you have your version of this? Because they know exactly how to put their artistic fingerprint on thing. They did a killer version. I didn't do a cover version. I didn't do a cover. They chose Kerosene by Miranda Lambert. And their dark country. It sounds dark country. It sounds like it was their song the whole time. Like that's so you can do these kinds of things and create your own audience, and then they'll come to you. But you've got to understand that it's not the quality of the art that creates the crowd. It's not. Like you don't have, there's not any foot traffic there. Even in the old days, it was the same thing. The record label would drop $500,000 and put you on the radio. And that put the art and the artist in front of new eyeballs. They had never heard you before. It's your debut single. A whole bunch of people heard you. And how did it work? Think about how radio is consumed, right? Nobody ever woke up in the morning and said, I wonder what brand new artist I'm going to discover today on the radio that I've never heard of. And I'm going to fall in love with them and they're going to become the soundtrack of my youth.
Right.
No, they turned on the radio back when there was only two choices to listen to music. You listen to what you own or you listen to the radio. Right. You turn on the radio to hear one thing. What was it?
Whatever's playing right then.
Well, what do they want to hear?
Oh, yeah, they want to hear their jam.
Their jam. Right. They want to hear what they know already.
And even if somebody wanted to go discover something new, and by turning on the radio, they still were at the mercy of radio to eventually get around to something new.
And that's the way it worked. When the big iconic artists came out with their brand new single, everybody wants to hear that. Remember how the radio used to do? Hey, every hour on the hour, we got the new Reba song right here. And because you couldn't get it anywhere else, right? The record's not for sale yet. They're heating up the record. Right. They're going to heat up the sales on that by making you want it really bad. And you have to only hear it on the radio. But while they're playing that every hour, they're sliding in these new cats like Tim McGraw. You never heard of him. And you didn't even know it was happening. And then by the seventh time you heard it, you're like, who is this? I like this song. And you know, wow, this is cool. Who's that? Oh, okay. And that was the way that radio worked. It wasn't, nobody was looking for good new music. They were looking for what they already knew was good, what they already liked. So you have to understand the psychology of the consumer to make this new music business work for you. And when you do, amazing things will happen. I mean, we have tripled. Jacob Cade just came out with a brand new single on July 12th in a brand new project, right? The Broken, the BRKN, if you guys want to check it out. Mm-hmm. Jacob Cade's been with us for a while. This is a band thing he's got going on. It's super cool. It's pop punk. I mean, already I think we got like 18,000 streams in 2 weeks. Cool. on Spotify alone. But what we're promoting it. We're getting it on playlists. We're getting it in different places and putting it in front of new eyeballs. We're doing digital marketing with it. So y'all know the stories about Planet X tour and the thing down in Scottsdale. Well, all that money that we spent to promote those shows and to promote do digital advertising for different things, that has data on it. Those are people that we know him. Mm-hmm. Right. And so we got to get the music video up now. He's got a music video out that's really cool. And we tripled the numbers on that already. Not a lie. We're up to like 750 or something like that, or 800. But it just came out a week ago, and we're watching the numbers move every single hour on the hour. Why? Because we're paying to get it in front of new people. And and I just started a campaign on a warm audience, on people that have already interacted with him. He's got, every time you create an event on Facebook, you can create an audience from the people that did that event. Mm-hmm. So remember I told you he opened up for Steel Panther? Yeah. Mm-hmm. For that event, like we had that on his Facebook page. That event got like 3,700 freaking people visited that event because it was Steel Panther and he was opening up for them. We get to tap into that. They saw him at the show and they bought tickets. So now we know who they are, and now we can put this new video in their feed and they're already familiar with him. Like, I saw that guy. This is cool. And then they're going to like it or not, but it's warm, right? It's not, we get to build from that, but does it cost money? Yeah. You still got to do it. Yeah. You know? And you got to understand how that works. I mean, I've spent a lot of money learning how Facebook works. It's not a boost. Boosting is not what we're talking about here, people. Yeah. That's like nowhere near, that's like 3% of the power of. Yeah. That's kindergarten. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like the lottery, right? Because I mean, when you, like, for instance, if you were going to boost, let's say you live in Pennsylvania and you wanted to boost a show and you targeted everybody in Pennsylvania. Well, with, just as an example, if you boost it, it's targeting people who live in Pennsylvania, people who are going to visit Pennsylvania, and people who have visited Pennsylvania. Like, as opposed to Pittsburgh and the people who live in Pittsburgh who like this kind of music. You know what I mean? Like, the targeting, it may seem like something really cool to you. It's kindergarten. It is not pro stuff. But the power there is, this is how you do it, and just keep growing the audience, growing the streams. And here's another example, the guy that we're using for the streams. The record drops on the 12th. It's our job to try to do as much as we can, and his job to try to get him on the smaller playlists, as many of them. We're like on 90 playlists right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we're doing the digital marketing. We're trying to push people to Spotify. We're trying all this stuff to heat it up. The more streams that you get in that first month, it takes a month to develop before he can go try to pitch it to the bigger playlists. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. They don't need you. They're not here to help you. Of course not. Right? They're here like, can we help each other? Yeah, you got a big audience. Does this look like it's heating up? Does it look like some people care about this? Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, then I'll put it on this bigger list here where, instead of 67,000, like the biggest playlist we have now has got 67,000 followers or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then you're getting into the 500,000, million, those bigger playlists. But we got to build that audience first. We still got to earn our way into that, even though we got a guy that's promoting it. Like, that's the deal. Yeah. So I got two ways I can look at that, right? I can be like, oh, well, whatever, we're paying you this money, you should just get us on that list, dude. Right. Or I can understand how the game is played and do everything that I can to try to give him what he needs to get us on that list. Right? Yeah. So there's the difference, guys. I think when you look at this independent record label like Beggars Group, and when you look at all these artists that have signed major label deals based on what they've done as an independent artist, and they didn't need anybody's permission, and they got what they wanted, how they wanted it. They don't have their hat in their hand. They don't have anybody telling them how to make their art. They're going to do what they want to do, how they want to do it, and it's going to be fine. That is better for the artist. Man, you got to do the work up front. You got to pay for it, or you got to do it in blood, sweat, and tears, and usually both. But bottom line is, remember this, in the old record business, the ratio was 9-1. 9 times the amount of money, 9 times the amount of energy and human resources were spent promoting the product. 10% of the energy and human resources were spent making the product.
Yeah.
And it's the same formula. Posting on Instagram and Facebook is not getting you in front of new eyeballs. Uploading your single to Spotify, not getting you in front of new eyeballs. Putting your video up on YouTube, not getting you in front of new eyeballs. You're there. You can be found. Mm-hmm. They're not looking for you.
Right.
So Ryan, you got to bring that business mind that you have that I know is sharp and apply it to this, but understand the game, understand the product. It's a different product. It's not a service. It's not something that somebody needs. It's not something that they know they need. Mm-hmm. And you got to find different ways to get in their minds. It's way better. And the artists, here's the final thing I'll say, and then we'll wrap this thing because I know we're running long, but why do the artists have the power? Why is it so much better for the artists now? You said you didn't see this. You want us to change your mind. Here it is. Spotify is now the ubiquitous thing, right? That is the benchmark that the labels look at. Do they care what happens on Apple Music or on Amazon? Yeah, of course they do. But really, they're looking at Spotify, okay? Those are the numbers that they're looking at. That's like the benchmark that they chose. And to be fair, it's a different service, right? It's a streaming service, but it's much more interactive than those other services where you can just find the music and stream it. The playlist can be shared. There's much more of a culture happening on Spotify than the other 2 platforms. So Spotify is still, bottom line, an online business. Mm-hmm. And they're not a store that's cleverly sandwiched in between 2 other stores that are really super popular.
Yeah.
Right? That where you walk in there and then you're just going to inevitably stumble into this store on a street down on Broadway on Nashville or wherever you're from. They're an online business. I don't care what you're selling. If it's music, hammers, if it's porn, if it's T-shirts. If you have an online company, you absolutely have to have one thing to survive and ultimately to thrive. And what's that one thing that you must have, Brent?
Audience.
Yeah, traffic.
Traffic.
Right? Traffic. So who goes to Spotify for Spotify?
Nobody.
Like
Spotify's mama.
Yeah, you're going to Spotify to hear the music, and Spotify doesn't own the rights to the music. The artists do, or the labels do. So you're creating the traffic that makes this engine work, and they understand that. Mm-hmm. Not as good as they need to yet because it hasn't matured yet. I mean, Spotify. What was the article we were talking about? Just came out with a.
They have like 108 or something million subscribers now?
108 million monthly subscribers now.
Yeah.
Out of 7 billion people. So just to give you some perspective, I just heard the data on social media. Social media is now actively used by 3.5 billion people on the planet.
Wow.
That's half.
Yeah.
The planet Earth is on and regularly uses social media. Mm-hmm. Not just has a platform. They're on it all the time. Okay. Yeah. So there's your idea of the universe that you could get to. Spotify got 108 million subscribers. Yeah. You know what I mean? So this is not, Brent and I were talking about this before the show started. This is nowhere near a mature market yet. It's still brand new at 108 million. Mm-hmm. So all that's going to shake out. But guys, we're the ones creating the traffic. It doesn't work without the traffic, okay? Right. And you can say, well, I go there for playlists and to learn new music. Well, everything that you do on Spotify has something to do with music as a consumer, and they don't own it. They just own the player. Mm-hmm. So that's the power right there, because you can go anywhere. You don't need to be distributed in a certain place. Like, we get that question a lot. Like, what if I do the wrong subgenre when I upload to DistroKid or to CD Baby or to TuneCore? Like, is that going to affect myself? No, man, it doesn't matter. Like, just get the right genre, and it's not going to generate traffic for you. It's just going to make you findable. But they're not going to want to find you by the subgenre. They're going to want to find you.
Exactly, yeah.
Because they heard about you. So there it is, guys. That's it. I hope this is bringing some perspective into it. And thank you, Ryan, for sending that email. I wish you the best, man. Like, you really do have some killer music, and you need to put the money behind it, and you'll grow an audience. That's just the long and the short of it. It's just enough people need to to hear it. And then it needs to keep moving. So with that, join the Climb community, subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and review, and tell somebody if you loved a certain episode. Put it on your social media. Let them know this podcast exists because we want you to win. So keep on climbing.
And we'll see you at the top.